Many people, when they are with a grieving friend, they just want to say the right thing to help make it better for them. And a grief counselor knows there are no magic words. There's no right thing that you can say. You need to sit with that person through their grief as they process it and understand that it's healthy and normal and it's going to be intense and it's going to be messy, and I can accompany you along with that. Hi friends, I'm Quenby Gallahan, licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been a therapist here in California for over a decade, and my channel, The Grateful Therapist, is all about mental health and personal growth. I have been a grief counselor for many years. I worked at Hospice. Today's video is all about grief. This video is for you if you care about someone who's grieving a loss, or if you're a mental health professional and you just want to get a little more information about how best to support your clients. Grief is a pretty large topic, so I am going to split this into multiple videos. So make sure you're subscribed with the bell notification turned on so you know when the next video comes out. I want to start by talking about what grief is and what it's like for people. Grief is just all the thoughts and feelings that someone has after the death of a loved one. You can have loss or grief over the loss of a pet, of course, the loss of a job or business, but in these videos, I'm really gonna focus on the loss of a loved one. Grief is a process, and it does take time, and it's a normal, healthy process. And it's not linear. You don't go from one feeling to the next. Sometimes they're all jumbled up. Grief can also be physical. My grieving clients come in sometimes with shoulder aches or stomach aches or headaches or difficulty sleeping, which is all normal in the early stages of grief. If you are grieving a significant loss of a spouse or a great friend, or a child even, then you know how absolutely all-consuming and intense it can be. In my experience, the number one thing you can do to help someone who's grieving is to be able to sit with them in the intensity of the feelings that they're having. Many people, when they are with a grieving friend, they just want to say the right thing to help make it better for them. And a grief counselor knows there are no magic words. There's no right thing that you can say. You need to sit with that person through their grief as they process it and understand that it's healthy and normal and it's going to be intense and it's going to be messy, and I can accompany you along with that, without trying to fix anything, without trying to say the right thing, without trying to make everything better. It's a process of accompanying somebody, and that is a real skill. It's a skill that you can develop as a friend or a mental health professional, but it is a skill to be able to sit with somebody, to be present with them, to hold them in high regard, to be empathetic and not try and fix it for them. Grief is not something that there is a quick fix for. Grief has to be moved through. Many people will say something like, you'll move on from this, or people are expecting me to move on after my husband has died and I can't move on. A grief therapist knows that you can't move on. You don't ever move on. You move through. And you can move through grief in a healthy way if you are willing to sit and process your feelings and thoughts about the loss. And I just want to reiterate that being able to sit with somebody through the intense thoughts and feelings of grief is no small thing. Being someone who is willing to just be there, accompanying your friend or client, is no small thing. It's actually really amazing, and it will be so appreciated by your friend who's grieving. So let me share with you what I am holding or framing in my mind as a grief counselor when I'm sitting with somebody who's intensely grieving. There are a few things I know that I want to cover over the course of our sessions. One is going to be memories, 2 is going to be feelings, and 3 is going to be memorializing. So let's get into each one of those a little bit more. Of course, one of the things that you can do to help someone who's grieving is ask them about their memories of their loved one who died, and let them share those stories. That is how they're going to process things, and it's how they are going to hold on to their memories. A lot of grieving people will say, after a few months even, I'm so afraid I'm going to forget that time we went camping up in the mountains. or I'm so afraid I'm going to forget the way he looked. And one of the things that you can do is say, well, tell me about that camping trip in the mountains. I'd love to hear about it. And that's one of the ways they solidify those memories in their mind, is by sharing them with you. Another way to help them with that, sharing memories, is to be curious. Be genuinely curious and interested, and ask them, hey, I'd love to see those photos, that photo that you're telling me about. So help them process their memories. I will add, though, one of the other things that someone who's trained in grief counseling can do that can be so helpful is to also be able to sit with the hard memories, and to know that all your memories of your loved one are not perfect and rosy and happy all the time. Even your loved one who passed away is human, and there were probably times you had hard moments, maybe an argument or something. And people need to process those too, because if they don't, it can lead to some difficult feelings, some incongruent feelings in them. I love this person so much, but we also had this kind of complex dynamic or relationship. So a good grief counselor friend is someone who can sit with both the great memories and also the hard memories too, and actually encourage them to share some of the memories that aren't as pristine. Let's talk a little bit about the different feelings of grief. Everybody knows that when someone you love dies, you're going to feel sad. Of course, you're going to feel sad. Grieving people often struggle, though, because they say, everybody expects me to be sad, and I am sad. Of course I'm sad. I'm crying every day. But there are also a lot of other more challenging feelings. And I think one of the responsibilities a grief counselor or a great friend has to a grieving person is to help them process some of the more challenging feelings too. Some of the feelings they can't talk about with anywhere else. Because they're hard for people to talk about. So some of those feelings I'm talking about are anger, guilt, regret. And you might say, gosh, how could someone feel angry at the person who dies? Trust me, many clients feel angry at the person who died or at the situation. And it's really healthy to let them just kind of vent and work through some of that anger. Some, for example, a widow whose husband died and now she's home unexpectedly with 3 kids of her own, and she's got some financial issues and she has to parent all by herself and she's scared. It would be normal for her to have some feelings of anger, even if they don't have to make a ton of sense. The feelings don't have to make sense. Feelings are just there. And you can be accepting, curious, and empathetic for whatever feelings are there for your friend who's grieving. As we're talking about these difficult feelings of grief, I want to throw in another tip. Another thing that you can do to help people is to normalize their feelings. Sometimes the feelings of grief are so intense that the person feels like they're going crazy. I've had many clients to me say, I feel like I'm going crazy. My mind's all over the place. I'm having all these different feelings. The feelings don't even make sense. And it is so soothing and comforting to the person who's grieving for someone to just say to them, that's really normal. Everyone who's grieving goes through things like that. I know it feels like you're going crazy, but I promise you, you're not going crazy. You're just overwhelmed with all the different feelings of grief. And that can just help the person relax, take a deep breath, and know that they're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. They're grieving. It's really intense, but it's normal and they're going to get through it. I think that's another thing we can do for our friends who are grieving is hold that hope that they are going to be okay. I'm telling you, so many clients have said to me that they're afraid they're going to get stuck in their grief. It's been 6 months already. They should be over it. And I'm there to say, no, 6 months, grieving somebody that you had in your life for 20 years, this is really normal. You're still just moving through your grief. And what we can do to help them is to hold the hope that we know they are going to move through this. It is going to take time and it is going to be challenging, but you will come through the other side. I talked a little bit about how sometimes grieving people feel anger. Sometimes grieving people have regrets, things they wish they had said to their loved one before they died, arguments that they had that they feel really sorry for now, all sorts of things that they wish were different, and that's really normal too, and they need to be able to talk about those. Often our temptation when somebody is talking about regret, hey, I wish I never said that, our temptation is to go in there and say, oh, it's okay, you didn't know, you didn't mean it. That really contains a client. That'll stop a client. It stops a person from going through and processing that regret. What we need to do is say, well, tell me about that. What's that you have regret about? And you let them process through it. Most times after they've really talked about it and gotten it off their chest, they'll be able to say, yeah, I can see where, I didn't know any better then. But let them talk about the things that are hard for them. We talked about how it's really fantastic if you can help them talk about their memories, both the good memories and the hard memories. But then often people want to do something tangible and concrete. So making something like a photo book of a loved one who's passed away is a way that you can memorialize them. Helping your client make something like a photo book full of pictures of their loved ones, some of the best times they had together, that helps memorialize them. It helps honor the person who died. Another thing I like to do is have a client write down stories, their favorite memories, write them in a beautiful bound book or journal so that they can preserve their memories, so they can share them and pass them down maybe to their grandkids one day or their children. This is a really important part of the grieving process, preserving those memories and doing things to honor their loved one who passed away. Another technique I love to use is letter writing. I usually save this to a little further down in our sessions. I don't do it right away because it can be pretty intense, but I have them write a letter to their loved one to give them a chance to say all the things that they wanted to say, everything they want to make sure their loved one knows. It's often a very emotional process for clients, but it's extremely effective because clients sometimes feel burdened or overwhelmed with all the things they did not get a chance to express to their loved one, so they get a chance to do that now. It's a really helpful and powerful exercise. As you can see from this painting on my wall, I work a lot with kids and teens, so I will make you another video on specifically how to support children and teens through their grief. Another way that you can help someone memorialize someone who died is to make a photo collage or a picture collage. So I'll have magazines and paper and glue, and they'll cut out things in magazines that were their loved one's favorite things or that reminds them in some way of their loved one, and they make kind of an art piece by it. Then they can frame it when they take it home and put it somewhere where they get to see it, and it helps them remember that person. Many people are in fear that they're going to lose this person from their life, and they need to find a way to still have a relationship with that person, whether they pray for them at night or write them letters or talk to them or look at their pictures or tell their stories and talk about the person who died with other people. That's one of the ways they honor their loved one who died. They memorialize them and they remember them. So friends, I have so much more that I could say about this. I've been a grief counselor for over a decade, and it's an area where I have a lot of experience, and I would love to share it with you so that it can help you, help your loved ones, or help your clients. So please look for other grief-related videos coming up on the channel. I also have other videos on the channel about anxiety, about therapy, about being an introvert. So make sure to check those out. Make sure you're subscribed, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts and experiences were with this video. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.